Hey gang, Sally here. Hope you're having an amazing and fascinating day. I know I am. Hey Kit, you want to say hi? Come here. Come say hi. Come say hi. There we go. There we go. So what are we doing today? We're actually going to be doing an unboxing. What are we unboxing? I'm going to say you got to wait until we run the intro to find out. How about that? Actually, you may not because it'll probably be in the thumbnail. But before we get to that, as always, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you taking your time to watch my videos. It means a lot to me. And I hope that you get something helpful out of this. With any luck, this is going to be a little bit different take on the way that most people typically talk about Starlink. So I'm going to share all of my thoughts around this that I have after we run the intro. If you aren't already, please consider subscribing, hit the thumbs up, leave a comment down below. If you think you are, double check to make sure because YouTube spontaneously unsubscribes people. And if you're interested in becoming a channel member, I just recently introduced a 99-cent a month level. So for as little as $1 a month, you can help to support the channel and the stuff that we do. And we appreciate it. So we're going to roll the intro and get right into this.
Wake up with the sun in our eyes. Sally forth, no need for goodbyes. Journey calls, let's roll the dice. Every mile a new surprise.
So I'm going to start off by saying I feel a little bit like a fraud. I did a video just a couple of weeks ago about how I have been able to function perfectly well without Starlink for quite a long time. And that I really didn't think I was ever going to rush into getting it. Well, I haven't rushed into it, guys. Here's the thing. Really what happened, and I won't, well, I am going to throw, Barb, I'm going to throw you under the bus. Sorry. But it's not throwing Barb under the bus, it's Barb talking some sense into me. We were talking a couple of weeks ago, like right after I put out the video about, you know, I'm okay with T-Mobile and Visible, and I really am in general okay with that. And I'll show you what those numbers look like as we go through this video. But we're going to be traveling together starting in June, and we're going to be hitting a bunch of areas where there's basically no cell coverage at all. And the way that I've dealt with that previously is when there's been no cell coverage, I've just been in the position where I say, okay, fine, I just won't be here. I'll be someplace else. And so I end up missing some of the things that I might otherwise be able to do. And then after we had that conversation over the next, over the previous week or so, before we had that conversation, I was getting spottier and spottier signals depending on where I was. I've been traveling in Nevada for a little over a month. And there are huge swaths of Nevada. And by the way, it's Nevada, not Nevada, just FYI. Huge swaths that have no coverage at all, or have very spotty coverage. And I've been in several places over the past week or two where I was really glad that I had gone ahead and ordered the Starlink because it would have made a difference in how long I was going to stay. Here's the thing. In most cases, I have had enough signal, barely, that I can stream with a lot of buffering. And I'm okay with that. That's not that big a deal to me. I'm actually parked in a rest area for the evening. Go figure. Because that whole plan for tonight's extravaganza didn't work out at all. Whole different video. So, you know, if I'm going to be someplace overnight and I can't stream, it's not that big a deal. What is a big deal is if I don't have the ability to necessarily be able to contact people, especially in the event of an emergency. That's been offset a bit by virtue of the fact that I have an iPhone 14 Pro, and that allows me to be able to use an SOS satellite signal to be able to text message. So that's cool. So theoretically, am I okay? Theoretically, I am. But I've been trying really hard to be able to stay on top of getting videos uploaded and that kind of thing. And there is something to be said for having the convenience of being able There's something to be said for having the convenience of being able to be connected. So, is it more convenience than necessity? Yes, it probably is. But having made the change from Verizon Business to Visible for my main cell phone plan, I'm saving roughly $63 a month by doing that. And so what I finally decided was I didn't want to be in the position, especially as we're traveling through some of these really remote areas this summer, I didn't want to be in the position of being uncomfortable with not being able to have a signal. Now, having Starlink is no guarantee that you're going to get a signal. It just isn't. But I stand a better chance having a triple redundancy now. And so, for example, where I am in this rest area, I've got an okay signal on Visible, which is actually what I've got the TV streaming from. I've got a signal that looks okay on T-Mobile, but it really isn't. So I just unplugged the router, and I just won't be running that. And we're going to find out together what we've got when we get the Starlink set up, and we're going to do that together. And we're going to do it kind of in real time so you can see what's really involved. So those are some of the reasons behind why I chose to go ahead and move forward with Starlink. And I said I'm saving $63 a month on my phone bill. I chose several different things. I chose to get the Starlink Mini instead of the regular dish. And the Starlink Mini is more expensive. And part of the reason it's more expensive, as I understand it, is because you can use it in motion. It doesn't have the gyroscopes in it that make it turn around. You just basically point it at the sky and hope it's going to find something. But it's also much smaller than the regular dish. It's more compact in general. And it will work inside of the vehicle. That's always been one of my big objections to Starlink, has been I don't leave anything outside my vehicle overnight that I'd be afraid to drive away from. I just don't do it. And I wouldn't want to drive away from Starlink. Pretty expensive to do that. So I've been resistant to it for that reason. But with Starlink Mini being able to work inside, and we're going to find out just how well over the next month, that kind of takes away that problem. And if it works in the way that I anticipate, I'm going to deploy it on the dashboard of the cab, and then all I have to do is pick that up and put it away in the cabinet over the passenger seat. Okay, and then we've got that cabinet up there, right there, which is where my router travels, and my VR headset is basically my electronics cabinet. And that's where I intend to store the Starlink Mini while we're driving and I don't need it. Or at any of the other times when I just don't need it, which hopefully will be a fair number of them. So one of my other objections to Starlink is that it's expensive. The regular roaming plan for nomads is $165 a month. That's unlimited. But because most of the time T-Mobile business internet and Visible phone with an unlimited hotspot work well enough, I really didn't want to pay $165. In fact, I wasn't willing to pay $165 for an unlimited plan that I really don't need. So, with the Starlink Mini, you can get a $50 a month plan that gives you 50 gigabytes worth of data. And if you need more in a particular month, you can just pay for more data at $1 per gig. So what I'm anticipating, what my plan is that I'm going to use Starlink primarily for those times when I basically have no signal at all otherwise. And additionally, if I don't have a decent signal for uploading videos, I can turn it on, get the videos uploaded, turn it off again. I don't think I'm going to go through 50 gigs a month in general. This month will be a special circumstance, though, because on the 22nd of May, I'm meeting a friend of mine at an undisclosed campground for now that we visited a few years ago together as well, when I was still working full-time as a real estate broker, and she still is. And we were in that campground. There was absolutely no signal. None of us had Starlink. And we both had a lot of work to do. We both had a lot of transactions in escrow, and I'm managing my entire company, so I needed to be able to work. And we would hop in her car and drive into town and go to the Starbucks and sit there all day so we could have a signal. That's not really camping fun. So I actually talked to her yesterday and I told her that I had this coming, and she's like super excited because she's been thinking about breaking down and doing it as well. So this is going to be a great test when we're together starting on the 22nd for 8 nights as to whether or not this really does work. So I have I have some thought that I will end up using more than my 50 gigabytes this month, since I'll be sharing it with my friend, knowing that there is no signal where we're going to be for 8 nights. But I'll be able to monitor and see what's going on with that. So those are the reasons and the thought process behind deciding to do this. Now, the other thing to consider is, when I went on Starlink's website to order this, now you don't have to buy directly from Starlink. I just decided it was easier to do that, and I got a deal that was acceptable to me to do that. But you don't have to do it this way. They were offering $149 for the regular Starlink dish, which used to be $4.99 and I think is now $3.99. The Starlink Mini, which is what I got, is $4.99 at its regular price, and I was able to get a refurbished model for $3.49. So a refurbished model may have been used and might be refurbished, or it could just be that somebody got it, decided they didn't really like it after all, and sent it back. So it was basically like it wasn't even really used. And I have no idea. And neither do you, because we haven't actually opened the box yet. We're going to do that together. So I paid $349 for the dish, but then I also bought some accessories. And because I find myself to be a little bit clumsy periodically, I bought the accessory kit that includes a rubber bumper that goes around the edge of the dish, and a protective bag that it goes into. Protective in terms of dust. I mean, it's not like padded or anything. And a case that will contain the cords and the charger module, which was ridiculously expensive. I think it was like $45. But I had looked at a bunch of other ones on Amazon, and after reading a bunch of reviews, one of the reviews for the product that I was reading that was a dish cover, and in 2 things that it included. One was, instead of just going around the edge, it covered almost the entire rear of the dish, and it came with a anti-glare sheet to put on the front of the dish. And some of the reviews indicated that they felt like those additions caused it to overheat, which I really don't want. And since I don't plan to be driving down the road with it in motion, I'm not terribly concerned about that. I wanted the rubber bumper in case I drop it, picking it up, taking it off of the dashboard, whatever. And then the dust cover, because, you know, if it sits up in the cabinet for a week or 2 or 3, at least it's not getting covered in dust. So that's all of the rambling around what I got and why I got it. Now, you want to see what it looks like? Let's do that. So the box on top, we got a lot of glare from the door. This is the accessory kit. And I have already split the seal. I haven't actually unpacked anything though, but I did split the seal. So this is the bag that it'll store in, and it's got drawstrings and it's got a little handle to carry it by. So that's the bag. And then this is the case that will hold the cord. Let's go ahead and get this opened up. So you can put the cord, sorry about the lighting, you can put the cord inside of here, and it's got a little accessory pocket divider as well. And then this is the bumper that goes all the way around the edge of the Starlink Mini. So this is how big the thing is. And again, that's part of the reason I wanted to go this way. So I believe that's everything that's in that box. Yep, that's all that's in that box. And again, I wasn't going to do an unboxing, so I ripped the zip ties off of the box and lifted the lid, and then I thought, oh, you know what? Let's do this for people together. So we're going to do it together. So here's what we got. We got a bunch of pictures inside of the box. I hate pictures. I really prefer words, but I'm pretty sure we'll be able to figure it out. So we're going to take this piece off. And this is the dish itself, and I know I'm not going to be able to hold the camera and put the cover on it. So let's see. Let me get the rubber bumper. And then we're going to take this end and feed it through here. and into this hole right here. And that feels pretty secure. Okay, so you can't push this down all the way while the cord is engaged. This is like the kickstand. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put this up on the dashboard, and then we're going to plug it in. So this is the plug end. Okay, so let's open the Starlink app. So I've got the Starlink app open, and you can see I'm manipulating buttons and whatever. And I'm going through this this process of following all the directions. You have to select what kind of Starlink you got. I got the Starlink Mini. You've got to log in. It gives you directions on exactly what to do. However, I had two problems, and I'm going to tell you what my two problems are so that you won't have those two problems. The first problem was that I did not have the plug fully seated into the dish receptacle. It was fully seated into the cord end that plugs into the wall, but not the other end. And so it was not clearly communicating for that reason. And the other issue turned out to be that even though I was not directly connected to my T-Mobile, T-Mobile kept trying to reconnect when I was trying to set this up, and that kept Starlink from being able to make its connection and actually get this processed. So, after a whole lot of fooling around, I finally get, and I didn't know either of these things were the problem at the time, by the way, but I finally gave up while I was still at Miller's Rest area, and I waited until I got to Sportsman's Beach the next day to try again. And I was having all of these issues. I couldn't get it done. I couldn't figure out what was going on. And I finally did a whole bunch of Googling. And the suggestion that I got was to use a different device like an iPad, which is what I did, and connected through the iPad, even though I could not get it to work through my phone. So there's your super tech tip for this. Don't necessarily, if you've got a problem trying to do it on your phone, don't assume that you're doing something wrong. You may need to switch to a different device. That's what happened to me. We started this unboxing and setup video for Starlink yesterday afternoon at the rest area, and I was tired and having difficulty, and I just didn't feel like messing with it. But I decided to go ahead and put it away as if I were storing it last night, and that actually works out really well. So this is how much room it takes up. This is the cord and the charger, and this is the unit itself. And so we're going to just take it out of the bag, and we're going to try this all over again. Oh, the other thing that I realized last night was I had been attempting to put this bumper on backwards. So as much as I would think that the part that says Starlink would face the front, it does not. So this is the top, this is the back, this is the front. So we're going to go ahead and plug the cords in, and we're going to try this again on the dashboard. And if it doesn't work on the dashboard, I'll take it outside and do the setup there. But I read an awful lot of reviews that indicated that it really should work on the dashboard. So I want to find out. I do have it well configured for storage, so that's good news. So we're going to plug this plug in. And then we're going to take this up and put it up on the dashboard. Just like this. And then we're going to put the cord up in the cabinet and plug it in. I gotta get my VR headset out of the way to reach the plug. Alright, so there's the plug. And we're going to drape the cord over like that. Okay, and then we got to get out the phone. So there it is, up on the dashboard. Let's try the setup process again. New Wi-Fi connections have been turned off from Control Center. We're going to try this one more time, and then we're going to end up going outside with it, even though I've been wanting not to. Did you want to be in the picture? Yeah? All right, we're going to try this again. We're going to try Mini and confirm. Go outside and stand where you intend to set up your Starlink, and then scan the entire sky. Got a gap right here. So I'm still waiting for it to show up in my Wi-Fi settings. Yeah, it's just not showing up. All right, I'm gonna have to do some troubleshooting here, I guess. Well, after a bunch of Googling, I think I may have found the answer, which is apparently using either turning off the cellular data on your phone or using a Wi-Fi only iPad. So I've got the iPad out. I'm downloading Starlink right now. And then we're going to try this again. So, and I got this answer from a Reddit forum, which, you know, we have no idea if it's going to be accurate or not. So we'll find out. We just have to wait a little bit. Okay, so we got to the point of opening the Starlink app. We've selected Mini again. We're choosing confirm. I'm going to say I have a clear view. I'm going to say I have a location. I'm going to say my Starlink is plugged in. And then we're going to open settings and go to Wi-Fi. And I bet I have to disconnect from my phone to make this work. All right, so we're waiting.
One eternity later.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to close Starlink. I'm going to go out and check the connections again, and then we'll come back in and open it and try again. That wasn't connected all the way. Okay, all that fuss and bother, and the problem might have been that we weren't connected fully to the dish. So that'll be good to know. Let's try this again. Confirm. I have a clear view. I have a location. My Starlink is plugged in. Open settings. Look, there it is. My goodness. Okay, no internet connection yet. But I'm sure that can take a minute or two to show up. And now when I open it on my phone, I can see it on my phone too. Still says no internet connection though. So let's go back to this screen. Starlink paired successfully. Your device is connected to Starlink. Next, we'll get your Starlink connected to the internet and optimize your setup. All right, so you know what? I think this is probably worth going through, guys. Determining alignment adjustment may be necessary in a moment for best performance. Wi-Fi not configured. I'm going to wait for that to finish its thing. It's also downloading a software update. It shows one device on the network, which would be my iPad. May take a few minutes for connection to stabilize. Connection will be most stable after about 12 hours, once Starlink is fully able to look at obstructions. Okay, configure Wi-Fi. Network name. How about Sally 4th? Password. Well, I'm not going to tell you what it is. And we're back. I chose to save my password, and I'm not going to store my password because I don't ever do that. So now we are reloading to apply our new network settings. This takes about a minute. Says I'm disconnected. I have no idea, guys. Don't keep telling me about my hotspot here. But we're going through this together. I will take out some of the time lag for you. How about that? Or maybe I'll speed it up just so you can see how painful this really is. I mean, it's not painful, but I don't know. I'm a written word kind of person, and I really would have preferred that, you know, they gave me written directions for doing this. But hey, what do I know? Okay, and now it's displaying my network name and my password, so I'm going to blank that out. We're going to choose connect. Starlink wants to join Wi-Fi network Sally 4th. We're going to say join. Allow Starlink to find devices on local networks. Yes, please. Wow, look at that. It's showing Moby Jack, which was my network in California, and showing it in the right place, too. And now it says, determining alignment adjustments may be necessary in a moment for best performance. Calculating orientation. Starlink is talking to satellites to determine which way it's pointing. And then I'm going to mess it up because I really do want to bring it inside and test it from that perspective as well. Which I think is going to be fine. I think my whole issue was that it just wasn't plugged in tightly. So there's your tech tip. If you decide to do this, make sure you're fully plugged into your Starlink Mini dish. And while we're waiting for this to calculate, I mean, I've got it sitting outside my door there. Let's see if we can get a better picture. Right down there on the ground, about 8 feet away from my front door. Starlink connected. Online. Okay, so let's see what statistics says. Power draw 20 watts. So right now I'm plugged into my Jackery because the plug doesn't fit in my outdoor plug. I guess I could use an extension cord, but throughput is 1 megabit per second. Outages, 3 outages, 2 in the last 3 minutes. I don't really think that matters because that's probably the booting process. I'm sure that's true. All right, so let's run a speed test. We're going to run a speed test according to Starlink, and while that one's running, I'm going to connect my phone and run a speed test off my phone. Okay, so it looks like Starlink itself says we've got 71 down, 25 up. And here's what T-Mobile, sorry, T-Mobile. Here's what my phone says. My phone says 93 down and 15.2 up. So pretty cool. All right, well, I'm pretty excited about this. And I've got to figure out how to be able to monitor my usage. So I think maybe I go back to my account. Please sign into my Starlink account. Okay, so now we can see. Here's the account: subscription, billing, orders, messages, shop, and notifications. Let's look at subscription, data usage. Okay, we've got 50 gigabyte available, and so far we have used 0.4 gigabytes. So it won't take a whole long time to run through 50 gigabytes. But I can add additional data at $1 a gig if I need to do that. And that's what my plan is, guys. Here, I'll tell you what, let's flip the camera around. Okay, good. Because I don't want to be using up my Starlink gigabytes if I don't actually need them. And I've got such a fast signal on my phone that I don't actually need them. Here's the thing. If you've got a good strong cell signal, you are likely going to have a better cell signal than you will a Starlink signal. But when there is no Starlink signal, when there is no cell signal or a very weak cell signal or not enough data to be able to upload a video, for example, that's when I really think that Starlink is going to come through for me. Now, before I shut this whole thing down, I am going to put it up in the dashboard and make sure it still works.
3 weeks later.
So all the stuff you just watched, I filmed on May 1st of 2025. Today is June 1st of 2025 when I'm finally able to get around to editing this. And I wanted to give you an update on what it's like to have Starlink for the past month. And it's been a mixed bag. I also want to share with you what it is that I've learned about plans and some other things that might be useful to know that I never saw in any of the research that I did before I decided to move forward with this. So first of all, would I do this again? Yes, absolutely. And especially because of what I have figured out about plans for me, for my use case. So first of all, the ability to have Starlink work in most places where there is no cell signal. I'm saying most places because I had an epic fail over the previous week or so when I was up in the northwest corner of Oregon. I used Starlink several different times in a matter of just a few days worth of use. I used about 20 of my 50 gig for the plan that I had for the first month. So just to recap, the $50 plan that I chose gives me 50 gigabytes of data included with that. Starlink says the average user uses about 10 gigabytes of data a day. So typically that would be about 5 days worth of data. And I chose that plan because it was the least expensive thing that I could see when I was placing my order. But I got an update for that on that for you. The typical plan that most people take is $165 a month for unlimited data. Now, if you really want Starlink to be your primary thing with unlimited data, that's not the worst thing in the world. You know, 165 bucks, you know, you got as much data as you need for as long as you need it. And, you know, it's possible that maybe I'll decide to do that at some point in the future and get rid of T-Mobile. On the other hand, probably not, because here's what happened when I was at Fort Stevens. I was there from May 22nd until May 30th. So I just left a couple of days ago. And my plan had been that I was going to use Starlink while I was there. And so I was being really conservative about using it up until then, because I wanted to have as much data available as possible. But I also knew that it was going to be a little bit of a crapshoot as to whether or not it was going to work, because if you've never been to Fort Stevens, although it is on the coast, the campground is in the forest. There were so many trees that I could not get a reliable Starlink signal. Reliable. I mean, it would connect and then it would disconnect. connect and disconnect. And because of that, I didn't want to have it just use data that I wasn't actually accounting for, so to speak. And I didn't want to, because I didn't want a big bill. I'm going to tell you what one of the alternatives is. And I talked to several other people in that campground loop that had their Starlink deployed, and all of those people had the regular size Starlink dish, not the mini, but they all also said they were dropping signals on a pretty regular basis, and it was not a reliable signal. Interestingly enough, T-Mobile had enough signal that I could stream on TV most of the time. It was buffering periodically, and there were a few times where it just dropped out completely. But that was a very different cell experience from what had been there a couple of years ago. So that was good news. Starlink was the bad news, and I was kind of disappointed about it because just a couple of days before I got there, what I figured out was, after looking more carefully at the plans, you can upgrade or downgrade your Starlink subscription at any time during the month that you want to. Now, if you're upgrading to a more expensive plan, it takes effect immediately, and you pay the difference between, and I don't know how it's prorated, but between your previous plan and the plan that you're upgrading to. If you're downgrading, then that goes into effect at the beginning of your next billing period, which for me is the first of the month. I don't know if everybody gets billed on the first or not. I don't think so. I think it's based on when you initiate your package. So, based on that, my plan was that when I got to Fort Stevens, I was going to make sure I had a signal, and I was going to upgrade to the unlimited plan for the rest of the month. And then neither my friend nor I would have to worry about how much data we were using. We could both stream, we could upload and download docs and do all the things we needed to do. Well, that didn't end up happening. But there's one other piece of the Starlink plans that you need to understand. You can also pause your Starlink plan at any time. I don't know exactly how that works in terms of effective date and billing, but to me, that's not a viable option. The reason that I want Starlink is so that if I find myself in a location where I don't have enough cell signal, either T-Mobile or Verizon, either my business internet plan on T-Mobile or my visible Verizon plan on my phone with unlimited hotspot, if there's not enough available from either of those, I want to be able to connect to Starlink and use it. Well, if I pause the plan, that's not going to work because I won't be able to connect even to upgrade the plan if I wanted to. So, what I have done effective today, and we'll see how this works over the next month, and of course, I'll give you an update if I decide to do something different. I downgraded to the $10 a month plan. Now, I couldn't see the $10 a month plan when I was placing the order for my Starlink. The cheapest subscription I could see was $50 a month for 50 gigs. You can get a $10 a month plan for 10 gigs. And with either of those, the $10 or the $50 plan, if you want to add on additional data, you can buy an additional gig for $1 or as many additional gigs as you want to pay for. And so my thought is that if I'm downgraded to the $10 a month plan and I'm only paying for 10 gigs, if I'm planning to be in a place for, 4 or 5 days, then it would make sense to me to get online with Starlink and then upgrade my plan to the $50 a month plan. Or if I'm planning to be there for longer, I might want to upgrade to the unlimited plan for the rest of that month. And so this allows me to control very closely how much I'm spending on Starlink and have it not be a bust to my budget, except for potentially rare occasions when I choose to have it be that way, as I would have if it had worked at Fort Stevens. So I'm pretty excited about that overall. So instead of the $50 a month that I thought I was committing to it, I'm committing $10 a month. And now I've got my emergency backup plan that feels like I'm really not spending anything for it because, $10 is not that much. So if you made it this far, thank you so much. I know this was a very long-winded video and long, and believe it or not, I think I ended up deleting more than 20 minutes of recording time while I was waiting for things to happen. because it was ridiculously long. Originally, I thought I was going to record the entire setup process in real time and just play the whole thing because nobody ever shows you that stuff. But it was so long and so boring, I cut out at least 20 minutes of it. So thank me for that. And thank you for being here. I really appreciate you hanging around and watching my videos. If you haven't already, do the stuff. Consider subscribing, leave a comment, give us a thumbs up. A couple of things that really help the most if you really want to be supporting and you're not ready to join the tribe yet, which you can do, by the way, with a YouTube channel membership for as little as 99 cents a month. So if you want to add some support that way, that would be amazing and fascinating. And I'm going to be introducing some new member-only content things coming up in the pretty near future. But the things that really help: thumbs up, comments, and share the video with somebody else that you think might get some value out of it. This one's long-winded. I chose to do it this way because I wasn't getting this information anyplace else when I was looking for it. And I hope that banging blind isn't as annoying to you as it is to me. So I'm going to stop right now. Thank you once again. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.